Study of everything about China.
Right. Right. The study of things about China, history, literature, culture, language, archaeology, everything about the Chinese world is sinology. And as we spoke about yesterday, it is opening up a window for the world to see modern China and its history. Okay, go ahead.
More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese research gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West 400 years in retrospect. Right. Gathered, revolving around the theme. T-H-E-M-E, not T-E-A-M, but T-H, theme. The exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect. Go ahead.
Sinology, more than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese research gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme. The exchange and learning between East and West 400 years in retrospect.
The conference revolving around the theme and 80 Chinese researchers. In this case, the research was being done by researchers. E-R-S, people that are researching. Researchers. The theme, the exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect. Go ahead, sir.
More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions as well. 80 Chinese researchers gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between L and Well, 400 years in retrospect.
Okay, very good. The exchange and learning between East and West. I could have said North and South, but I said East and West. 400 years in retrospect. Regions, revolving, researchers. Regions, revolving, researchers. Okay.
Sinology, more than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese researchers gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme the exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years and retrospect.
Yeah, right. Very good. Learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect. Yeah. Very good. Go ahead.
More than 130 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese researchers gathered at a two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West, 40 years in retrospect.
Learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect. More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries, and then you had as well as 80 Chinese researchers. The exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect. Okay, go ahead.
Sinology. More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries, regions, as well as 80 Chinese researchers gathered at a two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect.
Right, very good. 400 years in retrospect. Sinology scholars learning between East and West. Go ahead.
Sinology, more than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese researchers gathered at two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect.
Right, very good. 400 years in retrospect. Gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West. 400 years in retrospect. Wow, it almost rhymes. Okay, go ahead.
More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese researchers gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect.
Right, very good. 400 years in retrospect. More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 8 Chinese researchers. Go ahead.
More than 120 sinology scholars from 39 countries and regions, as well as 80 Chinese researchers gathered at the two-day conference revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect.
Right, retrospect. Revolving around the theme, the exchange and learning between East and West. 400 years in retrospect. I love that line. Between East and West in retrospect, it almost rhymes. Anyway, okay. So we've been discussing for the last couple days sinology, the study of all things China. All aspects of life in China. History, literature, religion, whatever. We were studying it. And more than 120 experts, scholars, people who have made a study, a lifelong study of sinology, who came from 39 different countries, could have been all through Southeast Asia, Europe, the United States, Canada, South America, and regions other than countries. Could have been just generally Southeast Asia, South Pacific, general areas, regions, Southeast Asia, South Pacific, South America, not one specific country, but a region, as well as 80 Chinese researchers, 80 people from China who are researching their own history, their own literature, their own religion, what have you. And they came together, gathered, came together, gathered together, gathered together, to bring together at a 2-day conference, not a 3-day, not a 4-day, a 2-day conference, revolving around the theme, everything connected with the topic, everything connected with the subject matter, the theme of the 2-day conference on sinology. The exchange, give back and forth, exchange, give, take, give, take, give, take, and learning between China, Asia, the East, and the West. 400 years, and the reason we say 400 years is, remember yesterday they said that sinology began as a topic, as a subject, as a matter for scholars in the late 16th century. So about 400 years. And exchange and learning between East and West, 400 years in retrospect. Essentially, what does retrospect mean? Retrospect. Retrospect. Spect. Spectacles. 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 I am wearing a pair of spectacles, a pair of glasses. So obviously it's about looking, seeing.
Teacher, we can see in next time, in the future. Future we can see.
Just the opposite. The past.